Hi, I'm Ashley Bennett, the body image therapist, and in this video I'm going to be talking about normalizing fear around making art. So most of you know that I'm an art therapist, and that means using creative tools, art materials, non-verbal ways of expression to express yourself. The workshops that I'm bringing to the States in October have a pretty big creative component, and that can be so terrifying for people. I think a lot of people hear the word art, especially if they don't identify as someone who's creative, and sort of run for the hills. It's like, I don't want to deal with that, I'm not creative. It brings up a lot of fear and a lot of feelings of inadequacy, and that's something that I really want to acknowledge. That's a very normal response to have. Basically, when we're going through childhood and we're making art at school, we're being judged for what we make. We're trying to master some skills. The teacher might be trying to grade something, and that's sort of the context of art growing up, especially if you didn't have a creative family or creativity wasn't really honored. So for those of you who have already booked and you're coming to the workshops, you have already taken such a massive step in choosing to come to a workshop that has a creative component, mostly because it's not easy to confront those fears on top of, looking at your body image and your experience in your body. So yay. If you had a less than ideal experience with art growing up, whether that was when you were in your young childhood or as a teenager, art can then take on this connotation that, I'm just going to be judged for it. It brings up all of those uncomfortable feelings. It's not a pleasurable thing, it's not an enjoyable thing, and it's also not a comforting thing. And so something that I remind participants in workshops going forward is that art is a valid form of expression, and the art object itself isn't the thing that we focus on. What we focus on, especially using art in a therapeutic way, is the process, the experience with the materials, getting to know the materials, starting to form those connections between what's in your mind, what's in your heart, and then how that translates down your arms or however you're using art materials onto the thing that you're working on. You're learning how to use visual forms, sensory forms as a language, and that's a really essential part of your expression. We really validate and hold up on a pedestal verbal language and the written word, and whilst that's really important, there are so many other ways to express yourself, and you might actually be limiting your expression just through trying to translate your experience through that one avenue. So in art as therapy, we're looking to place those experiences to the side where art was a way of getting a good grade or a way of pleasing mum and dad, and all of those uncomfortable, sometimes really traumatic experiences. We want to come back to art as getting to know the materials again and getting to know what needs to come out in you in a non-judgmental environment, in an encouraging space, and in a space that lets you meet yourself where you're at. So you get to go on this process guided by you instead of being forced to, create this particular shape and now do this and make sure it's perfect and blah, blah, blah. It's your experience and you are in control. So the other aspect that stops people from wanting to make art is because they think they're not talented at it. They may have also been told very clearly that they're not talented at it. That is another thing that society has deemed, you need to be capable and at a really high standard in order for you to do it. Don't let society take another thing away from you. Just as your body doesn't need to be perfect to go out and enjoy your body and live in it, your art making gets to be a process that's just for you. It doesn't have to go into a gallery. You don't even have to show people. Don't let society ruin another good thing, because art is another way of expressing, and it doesn't get to have that. I'm going to sing that till the cows come home. So the really positive aspect, if you are bringing all this baggage to art, is that it means you've got a lot of material to work with. Art is an excellent metaphor for life. So if you find yourself holding back in life, you might also hold back in your artwork. And so your artwork can then become a testing ground, a way of, risking in a little way something new. We're able to explore new things, and that gives us this sense of, agency then. If you're able to do that in your artwork, how might you be able to go out and do that in your life? Another thing is that art is also really excellent for taming your inner critic, because your inner critic's going to be there. Everyone's got one. I've got one as well. It's interesting how the inner critic really comes up when you're wanting to express yourself. So whether that's with your words, doing a video, with art making, with just going outside, with just being yourself, that inner critic is there. And so when the inner critic comes up in art making in a safe and contained space, we can work with that, and we can start to, work how we manage the critic and how we can just go ahead anyway, despite the critic's presence. In past workshops that I've done, most of the people who come don't have any art experience, and most of them are freaked the heck out when they come. They're sitting with all of these feelings of, shame and self-doubt and, inadequacy, and then they give it a crack, and then all of a sudden you see them like moving into this flow state where they're immersed in the work, and they're discovering that they actually have competency around the visual expression. And it's interesting how that happens when you're allowed and you're given permission to make something that just comes from you, and that you're also given the space to be with the discomfort about not knowing what to do. I don't always leave you hanging, by the way, but just giving yourself your own time, moving through your frustrations, moving through the waves of the art making process. Those of you who are creative and who are coming along will know what that's like. We're not creative all the time. So if you have any more questions, I'd really love to hear them, and I'd love to talk to you via email or via DM. It's gonna be good. I know I would say that because I'm running the thing, but I personally wish I could go to my own workshop, just saying. So any excuse to make that, right? Come along, hope to see you there. Talk to you all soon. Bye.